Folks, welcome back to another edition of the ISD official visit. Have a special episode today. Got my man Scott Schrader from wearesc.com. Does a great job following USC, covering recruiting, everything out there. Scott, thanks a lot for joining us.
Hey man, good to see you. Looking forward to Saturday, I think.
Scott, you're a USC guy who has a great, deep affection for Notre Dame. You have a lot of respect for Notre Dame, and Notre Dame fans sometimes are skeptical of USC people. Why do you have so much respect for Notre Dame?
I think it started with my father was he covered the USC football team. So he was able to go back to Notre Dame every other year. I don't know how many years he did that. So he developed a lot of relationships with some people. One that I remember very distinctly was Roger Baldessari. He was very close. He stayed at our house a few times. Wow. I played golf with him many times. So, and I went back to Notre Dame in 1977. I was like 7 years old. I watched Joe Montana and Ken McAfee play pitch and catch against the Trojans, but I just fell in love with Notre Dame and being there, even as a young kid. I went back, years after that. I've probably been back like 10 times now. But my dad showed me everything about that campus, and I just kind of took his love for Notre Dame and just kind of adopted it myself. So here you have this amazing campus. The rich tradition of the football program. I think it's a program currently that is run extremely well. I'm sure Notre Dame fans maybe at times disagree with that. But I mean, if you look at what Brian Kelly has done, he had a few years there where things weren't so hot. But Notre Dame's a disciplined football team. They don't beat themselves. And that's just kind of Notre Dame in a nutshell, I think, for me. That's just my perspective. I just have a very high opinion of the school and football program. I mean, I love it because, and here I'll be in Chicago on Friday. I'll be in South Bend on Saturday. Honest to God, I can't wait. I know it's going to be 40-something degrees by the time, halftime rolls around. I'll be freezing my butt off because I'm kind of But, I can't wait to get to Notre Dame.
Yeah, I know. Like you said, Notre Dame's been pretty well run under Brian Kelly the last several years, where USC, you guys are in the bit, not even the bit, you're in a major transition. I'm always interested when you pull a cord and get rid of a coach early in the season and you go through the whole season with an interim coach, how that impacts recruiting, and how do you think USC is going to navigate this situation? And I guess what was the thought process going into it?
Yeah, it was from our business perspective as website publishers and so on, you're thinking, okay, great, there's this coaching change. When things had not been going well at USC over the last few years, I thought Clay Helton should have been replaced, 3 years ago or so, but he hung on. And so it was just kind of like there was this cloud hanging over USC of uncertainty for at least 3 years. So you get to week 2 and they fire Clay. And now you're kind of like, God, you have an entire football season to go. And you really can't start a coaching search if you want to include everybody that is out there. With 10 weeks to play in the football season. So we're kind of at a point right now where we feel like we're treading water in the Niagara River. And so, we don't know where we're heading, but there will be a coaching change, and we're not even hearing really a whole lot what's going on. So it's been really, really difficult. I'm surprised recruiting has not, USC only had 10 commits as of today. They had a decommitment from a 5-star strong side defensive end from Columbus, Georgia. And Michael Williams. So they only have 9 commitments right now. And I'll be honest with you, I think depending on if the entire staff is replaced, they may have problems with a couple of them like Devin Brown, the quarterback, and maybe Damani Jackson. But overall, I think recruiting is actually going pretty well because I think a lot of the kids are waiting to see who is going to be retained on staff and who the next head coach will be.
Big game this week. It's not the most hyped Notre Dame USC matchup that we've seen in recent years, with USC going through some transition. But what are your thoughts? I mean, USC, it's a rivalry game. They're obviously going to be fired up. What is USC going to come in and have a chance to win this game, or what?
You don't know. With USC, you don't know this year. USC, I think this season is one of those years where USC has the ability to probably win every football game they play, but has the ability to probably lose to every team they play. So, I look at Notre Dame. To me, that's an extremely hard place to go win a football game, whether Notre Dame is good or not, and whether you're really good or not. So I think it's going to be extremely challenging for USC to go to South Bend and win the game. Especially, there's a lot of elements going on when you fire your head football coach with 10 weeks left, and some of that is the assistant coaches kind of know they're not either. So you're always wondering if everybody's on the same page as a staff. We've watched the USC football team when the slightest adversity hits, kind of fold, a little bit, especially at home. I mean, they got waxed 3 times at home by Stanford, Oregon State, and Utah. Giving up 42 plus points. So, I know Notre Dame hasn't played as strong this year as maybe they have in the past 2 years, and I know you guys have kind of shared your thoughts with me on some of the stuff that's going on there with the left tackle and some guard spots. But I think it's going to be USC has had a very, very, very difficult time stopping the run, and then in some games they've also looked like it was pitch and catch for the other team's quarterback and receivers as well. So they're going to have to play with a lot of energy for 4 quarters, and I haven't seen that yet this season from USC.
Brian Kelly seems terrified of Drake London. He couldn't stop talking about it in his press conference earlier this week. Is he really just that much of a game breaker? Is he the kind of kid that can, absolutely just change this game and put USC on his back?
He's not the kind of game changer like a Dory was. You're not going to have Drake London scoring 3-4 touchdowns in one game because that was kind of, I think what game I'm talking about at the Coliseum. Dory kind of single-handedly won that football game for USC. And so, Drake is a guy who, Keaton Slovis is going to probably target him like he has every other game 20 plus times. The last game he had 17 receptions. I don't know what his final yardage tally was, but yeah, he's a guy that is very dependable. He's going to catch the football, but we're also seeing Drake London and some of the other receivers this year trying to make plays before they catch the football. So that's also been kind of an issue at times. So, but they're going to need a huge game from Drake London in order to compete with Notre Dame.
You mentioned Slovis. I know Jackson Dart. There was an update where he's been working out, but he's not medically cleared yet.
Yeah.
Is that the feeling? Is Slovis going to get the start here?
Slovis, I'm sure, will get the start. Jackson Dart has been taking all the second-team reps, which kind of surprised me. Earlier this week, it was I was told it would be a surprise if Jackson Dart played at Notre Dame. But based off of what we've heard, yesterday and today, I would think he's at least going to make the trip, suit up, and potentially be there, ready to play if Keaton should struggle. So, Jackson Dart is one of those guys that if he hadn't gotten hurt at Washington State, we might be talking about a little bit different USC football team record-wise heading into this game. But, again, the defense has been as big a problem as the offense this year for USC. So, it just seems like when Jackson Dart is in the game, the team seems to play a little bit harder, kind of like they did when Sam Darnold was at USC.
Mm-hmm. So Notre Dame is -7 in this game, and just from hearing what you're saying, I feel like you like the Irish here, given the points.
Yeah, I on our podcast, we had 4 or 5 predictions. I remember how many of us were on there, and everybody's like, "I'm taking Notre Dame, and I think by a lot." And I was like, "I'm taking USC by 14." And if I'm right, I will remind you guys for the rest of the year. And if I'm wrong, nobody's going to care. But if you want me to be honest, yeah, I would predict Notre Dame.
Okay. All right, Scott, we really appreciate it. USC fans, if you're interested in USC, go check out wearesc.com. Scott and the guys over there do a great job. So, Scott, we really appreciate it.
All right, man. Appreciate you. Look forward to seeing you guys soon.